Hey guys, welcome to another episode of our relationship series. I have two amazing brothers with me. We'll be discussing an interesting topic. They will go ahead and introduce themselves.
Alright, so my name is Emmanuel Crown.
Okay.
Yes.
My name is Arinze Omako.
Okay, thank you guys for joining me today. I'm really grateful. So I want us to talk about fatherhood and how you relate with parenting. How was like your first 6 months after your first child? How were you able to manage being that she was your first daughter?
Yeah. So in my case, it was first of all a baptism by fire surprise kind of situation when I didn't really know. Let me not say didn't really know. We knew kind of what to expect. Of course, you read around, but I don't think anybody can prepare you for actually being the fatherhood, especially being here in America. It's different than how I was raised, right? So there is a lot here as a parent, as a father. You have to be more involved. That was not necessarily how the father figure that I had growing up was, where the moms and the house helps and everybody takes care of the kids. Right. But that was very different here. So I remember the first time when we had her back from the hospital, the sleepless nights, back in Africa, or at least where I came from, it would be the dads are okay, they're sleeping and all, and then it's the moms taking care of that. But then I really had to be out there, involved in everything. It was helpful when my mom came at some point to kind of help relieve some of the burden. But it's been, I think that kind of helps you connect with them a little bit more, since you've been involved in the whole process from while they were little to when they grow. So and we can probably talk about that more as we go along in the discussion. But yes, that did help to connect more with them. But it was challenging. For the second one, it becomes easier. For the first one, it was quite challenging. There was a lot to adapt to. Just understanding how. First of all, you don't even understand why they're crying, why all this is happening, and then you're trying to figure that out with your wife together, and then you have a case where your wife also just put to bed. She's also not fully back to herself, so she's also relying on you as the husband to both be husband, be father, and try to put some of those things here. So
thank you. How about you, Mr.
Yeah. So my experience was unique to me. It was my first time. And it was something that, like you said, baptism by fire, it was something that we had to learn on the go, because there was no parent, there was no elderly person to help out in the process. My wife and I were just, going through it the way we understand, obviously. So sometimes you think that the whole 9 months while waiting would give you some experience or you'd know what to expect. But, we just had to, we learn as we go. A lot of things that we had to, to do, ask a lot of questions. Everybody had an opinion how you should take care of your child, growing, as at that level. But you have to just know what will work for you and what you need to leave. So yeah.
Yeah, I think what Andy Crown said, the sleepless night. Mine, I didn't experience that. So I think that was a blessing to me. We didn't experience that. But what did you learn in that your first child, that during your second born it was just like a walkover?
So so a couple of things, at first, everything you want to use for the baby at that time, we have to be very cautious. The kind of water you use, the kind of where you keep them to sleep. When we're leaving the hospital, they told us to, at that time I remember even the doctor said you should even, give them water. But that was something that it didn't make sense to me at the time. Even though I had to go and read it up, then I understood why. Those don't give them a lot of it. The first baby, there was a lot of being very careful. I was still very careful for the second baby, but this time around it was more of laid back. Then at the second baby, I remember asking my wife, I was like, so what's the distilled water? What happened to the water? I went out buying special water, because once the water is out, they'll call me, get me water, that kind of thing. So there was a lot of learning process. For a second example would be leaving the baby to sleep alone. At the first baby, it was very difficult for her to detach from the baby, to leave the baby to sleep alone. But at the second time, it wasn't a challenge. So yeah.
How about you?
Yeah. So I think for mine it was two major things. The first was just getting comfortable with having a small one. When I had my first daughter, At the hospital, the moment she was born, they gave her to me, and I was like, I was like, no. I was like, I don't. What do I do with this? I didn't know what to do. So it took me a minute before I picked her back up. So by the second one, I was already used to that. So it was just kind of natural. So I think that eases up a lot of the experience moving forward. And then I think by the second one, we already started to kind of understand why the baby would potentially cry. So for one of the reasons we struggled with the first one is that she was constantly hungry. So we didn't know that our expectation of what a baby should eat was like just a little bit. We would give her that, but she was not full. So I think by the second one, you already kind of have some of these experiences. So when the child behaves in a certain way, you're like, oh, okay, I think I have a sense of why they're crying. So it's kind of easier for you to sort of adapt to that. It's not your first time, and then you've done it before, so it's kind of some of these things again. Experience, you have experience in several things here.
Thank you. I mean, I'm learning from you guys because I'm trying to. My second one is coming, so thank you
Congratulations
for your thank you
Yeah.
for your perspectives. So I've been thinking about this issue of a father being present in the life of their child. Can we discuss how significant is it, or how let me just use the word, how important is it for a man, that male figure, not just a male figure, like a father figure, to be at home? How important is it? Because society is making it look as if, okay, that's their own, and I'm not against anybody watching us. I've seen some videos on Instagram. The lady, she's not married, but she has children, and I think she's currently pregnant. She has sperm donor and all this stuff. So when I saw the video, I'm like, you can't take away the value and the importance of a father in the life of a. Can we just discuss how that manly presence? I mean, how powerful it should be, or it is in the life of a child.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I could start off as we go with the conversation. I think there are many aspects to it, but definitely a child does need a father figure, and a lot of times, again, this is very broad generalization. It doesn't mean that that's all the case. A lot of the times, if you see kids that have come out from that household where the father was mainly missing, you would notice certain things. Some few people have walked out of it, through by different reasons. So, for example, for my wife, for the most of her growing up while she was young, she didn't have her dad around, So she said that affected even the way she relates with men. So she didn't necessarily feel that loved. Even when I met her initially, she was still dealing with some of these insecurities. For example, if you have I'm a dad of two daughters. There are certain ways you treat your daughters that just teach them how should a man teach you. They might not get some of these from their mom. Because again, their mom she's a woman, she has her own way that she thinks. As a man, I have my own way that I think. So if you have a blend of these two, then you have a child that is really well-rounded.
Yeah.
They've seen that love of a father, and especially with the girls, with the ladies, and I think my wife's stories is a testament to that, is that when they have a strong father figure in their life, who especially is in a loving home that has taught them these values, they come out more self-confident, especially when they are ready to start dating. Most of them don't take anything from men. You would find that there are certain ladies, they might be, for example, in an abusive relationship, just because they never had that father love.
They'll just stay there.
So they'll just stay there because they're longing for that kind of love, that acceptance in there. So that's one perspective of it. And just in terms of even teaching values, I remember there was a time we were teaching my daughter how to scooter. So she ran and she fell down on the floor, and she got too scared, she didn't want to do it, and my wife was kind of pumping her. I was okay, let's go. So I came out, I was like, no, it's part of the process. I was like, if I show you my legs, I have lots of scars. So that's my own perspective. I mean, it's not that I'm not tender, I am tender, but I came in a little bit from more of a stronger side of it. I was like, no, try it again. You would fall. I can't promise you that this is the last time you will fall. You'll still fall some other time. Let's do it again. So I convinced her, she did it, and then as we were walking back, my wife just made a statement. She's like, this is why you need both parents. Because for her, she might have also just told her to give up, and maybe she would never learn how to scooter. But she needed, again, that fatherly figure that comes with a very strong persona and say, no, it's part of the process. Just toughen up a little bit.
Well, I think what you just said now concerning your wife, my own wife too, I think it's been about like, let's say like 10, 12 years that she has not seen her dad. And I remember when we were dating, it was a little bit, it was difficult. Whenever we are going out on a date, I would try to hold her hands. It would be as if like it was very difficult. It was as if she's trying to climb a wall. It was difficult. Then I would go home. I mean, she didn't tell me. I would go home. I'm like, why is this? Then I started asking questions. Then she now told me about relationship with her dad. I said, no wonder. This is the reason that you have to have this, father figure. And also with my son, sometimes. But I'm not saying women are not important. Of course, they are. I mean, we need them in our lives. There's one time my son would just climb something. My wife would be like, come down. He will not listen. Boys, he will not listen. Then I would just say, come. I will just call his name. Lights. He will just come down. So whenever I do that, I'll just think, I'm like, wow, this is, I mean, it's very very important. Imagine now growing up with just a mom. I'm not saying that the single mom, they've not children that grew up with that just with their mom, they didn't come out well. No, they came out well, but they have to be like they have to be an environment of respected men. Like if you don't have your husband around, or maybe divorced, you have to put those kids around people, around men that they are trustworthy and that are well respected. How about you from your point?
So one of the things I would like to mention in this is the discipline that comes with fatherhood. So there's the discipline that the father would give the child and the discipline that the mother would give. Yes, mothers, I mean, they do very well, but I mean, if you've been in that environment, you know that even as a father, you know that there's some things it's almost like you give a decree in your house, and then your kids already know, okay, this is what once dad is around, or this is what to expect. It's very important, because even I was just looking at it some time ago. Statistics in America says that about 80% of people who have both parents, the father and the mother, are less likely to go to jail. They're also more likely to finish college. You see, things like that. So these are statistics. This is something that are proven out there that come in. So, but like you said, it's not to say that people find themselves in different situations where the father is not there. Something like that. You find yourself in a community where you can leave your kids to have that father figure, men around them, mentors. Exactly, you have a mentor around them, so that it gives, at least no matter how little, it gives them that discipline that will be needed for them in life. So that's one of the areas I think that fatherhood affects a child.
Okay, thank you so much. How about like you just mentioned, like discipline? I know there's a place of balancing both love and discipline. How, because we just don't want to the man is just to be fire. Yes. So how do we blend in both of them? Like, what can we do? Like the activity, and I don't know. Is there like you have both male and female? The way you discipline your male child, is it different from the way you discipline your?
So it's difficult to say categorically that it's different. But what I try to do, and I learned this by making the mistake. So what I notice is that whenever I discipline my son, I at first I would leave him, so he feels bad. The girl, on the other hand, doesn't take it too personal. It sounds a bit confusing, but the girl doesn't take it too personal, but the guy takes it personal. So what I started doing was I discipline him, and then I in love, I bring him back. But then I explain, no matter how young they are, I think it's very important to explain why you did what you did. You might think they don't understand, but they somehow do. So I don't think there's a way for me that I discipline the male different from the female, because the point is that you want them to understand the instruction that is being given, and probably the reason why you are giving the instruction. So it's about the value you're trying to create, not necessarily the gender. Maybe later in life, maybe as a teenager something happened, you have to do things a bit different, but at that young age, I think discipline to me at that point is discipline.
Okay, I want to go to a different another area. I've watched I've observed our parents. People are saying I know no parenting or no parent is 100% perfect. Yes, we know that.
Yeah.
But many of us, like my generation, we have criticized that, the older generation, they didn't do this thing very ready. But if you see the children that they produce, they were strong.
Yeah.
They were strong. They may not be emotionally connected like that, but they were strong. They were firm. But our generation now, the children that many of us are raising, we are claiming that we are in the new era, but they are not strong. At any little thing, they will just cow out. So is there a way that we can we just talk briefly about that?
Yeah, so as you were saying that, I think what's coming to my mind, it boils down to having, again, when we're talking about a place of a father, you're having an authority figure.
Yeah.
For the most of the cases, in most places, it will be the father. It doesn't mean that it's always the case in every house. And I think part of the problem we're seeing in our generation is that we live in an age whereby it still boils down back to discipline, where the role of discipline is being washed down a lot.
Yep.
I grew up in a household, growing up in Nigeria, whereby discipline was very firm from both parents. Of course, a little bit maybe tougher on my dad's side, but from both parents, whereby you would get spanked. And it's biblical. The Bible says, spare the rod, spoil the child. Some of these things are biblical. It doesn't mean that you always have to use spanking. But there is place for discipline. But I think we are now living in a society whereby everything seems okay. You see little kids on social media doing XYZ. So when things that are not right are being done, we're washing it down and just making it feel it is okay to do this. So that's where the problem comes in. So I think there is need to strike a good balance. So I'm extremely playful. I play with my daughters a lot. I play with them. We play all the time. So they do see a loving figure. They come to me. But when it boils down to something that's fundamentally wrong when they do something, I have a switch. Where I instantly switch. I'm like, no, you can't do that. And they know that. And it's different from child to child. But for my older daughter, she comes from the place where she even comes back to apologize even after the discipline point. It's like, oh daddy, I'm so sorry, it looks like I disappointed you. She does that. But then if I because I'm very playful and everything, it's like she does something wrong, you don't cap it, then it starts growing. Then it becomes a habit, it becomes a behavior, then it becomes a lifestyle. It gets to the point where you can't tame it. So even though we live in America, the society here is very liberal, to say. There are just certain things I just don't take from my daughters. It boils down to the level. She's only 6, even from 5, even to dressing at this age. There's some certain dresses I just don't take. And I told my wife, my wife said, what? I was like, nope, let's start from now, this age. It's like, no, I'll be like, nope, she can't go out dressed like that. Let's change that. So certain things like that, I know it's very widely acceptable in the society here, but I just instill those disciplines, and I think if you stick to those as you mold them, by the time they grow, there are some values that you've kind of put into them where they're ready now to face, because there's going to be lots of pressure coming out from society. If at home already you've not grounded them, then they will easily swear away. But at least if you've given them some grounding as they're growing up, then that starts making that a little bit easier, which is why you need not just even the father figure, you need those two parents, because sometimes as a single parent, you're trying to deal with so many things. It might be easy to miss out something else that is going on with the child, to give that attention.
So, just if I may, so I think it's very important these days. What's going on is everybody, or the kids these days are just a lot of things are taken for granted, and I think thinking about it, because it's something that worried me in this kind of society, and I think it goes back to us as parents. Parents, I believe these days are like, it doesn't matter. A lot of things don't matter these days, and it goes back to what are your own values? What do you want? How do you live your own life? So a lot of things that I have consciously tried to change, because now I have kids, because you don't expect, so you want your kids to be readers, you want to be reading, and then you make your kids go to read or do assignments, and then you are watching TV. That they won't pick up the habits from that. You are telling them what to do, but you are doing something else. So that they won't pick up the habit. So I think what's going on is that even we as parents these days are taking things really for granted. It doesn't matter. Okay, you see people around you, they just come in, and then you just don't, you have to say something, hello, hi, and you greet them, acknowledge that they are in your presence. These days, people don't do that. They just walk in and then they just like, okay, it's nothing. So these are the things that I think that are missing. We as parents, what are we doing? What are we doing? And this thing now you're talking about now is shining the light on how useful or how impactful family is to the society. So if each family is doing their best, parents doing their best to train up these kids to a certain level, you see that even in society at large, everywhere will be, things will be better. So yeah, that's what I think.
So like the King Crown said, you have to strike that balance, and you see this generation will be like, oh, I don't spank them. I don't spank my children. I only advise or talk to them or counsel them. And I'm thinking, when it comes to, like, let's say from their first year to like 5 or 6, you don't need to talk to them. So what's like an appropriate discipline that should be rendered to them? Because I've noticed my son is like my own personality. You have to, because now you have to watch your child. Are they soft? My son is not soft. He's somebody like me, so he's not soft. So whenever my wife is trying to, I say, don't talk to this guy. Don't talk to him. So she will do all the talking and like to not even do anything. I'll just call his name, like I said, I'll call his name, then he will adjust. So is there like an appropriate discipline so that it doesn't lead to abuse? And another thing that I noticed that, in our parents' time, we'll go to a party or to a friend's house and they will offer me food. I don't know, maybe because I've experienced that. They offer me food, then they'll be like, eat. Your mom will tell you to eat, but you know that it's not a go ahead. You just look at, whenever they give you something, the first person that you will look at is your mom. They will give you one eye. That eye, you will know maybe it's a go ahead or not. So, and it's something that is missing in this. But now it's something I'm trying to, whenever I look at my son outside, I'll just look at him. I'll just like open my eyes. You will know that this is a no, don't go area. So is there an appropriate like
form of discipline? So I would say it really varies by age. So the first thing I would say is try to never correct in anger. I think if you are able to tackle that, then I think abuse is kind of out of the way. So even if you decided that you wanted to spank, you're doing it not out of anger but out of love, and you've noticed that, okay, maybe this child responds to this. I think it differs from child to child. We have 2 now, and they're two different personalities. My first daughter, she's very soft. She's the kind where if you even like raise your voice at her, that's enough to, she's gonna start crying. My second daughter, you can yell from now to other, she just look at you and she keeps going. So the way we respond to discipline, the two are very, very different. So with my older daughter, she's and then it's actually never maybe where a little bit different from what your point is, depending on the personality. It's not too young to start talking to them. So my younger daughter, we started talking to her once she turned about 3-4. When she started understanding, we'll explain why. It's like, okay, don't do this. If you do this again, you're gonna go on timeout. We did timeout for her worked. That's not working too well with the younger one, but for her timeout worked. She just didn't like to. She likes to please. She doesn't want to disappoint. So if you show a strong sense of disapproval of what she did, she even comes back later, even after you've yelled. It's like, I'm very sorry. So for her, the approach would be, even till today, I don't know that we've even ever had to like spank her or anything like that. She's just she really wants to get your approval. So if you tell her something, and most of the times once we correct her and say, don't do that again, 90% of the times she doesn't do it again. Or if she still wants to do it, she comes like, Daddy, I know you said that we should, but can I please just have for this time? And I'm like, okay, you can have it, or maybe not. But for the younger one, she's very different. She seems like she's a little bit tougher. So that approach of speaking to her, she doesn't really care much. And she's the kind that even if you spanked her and she cries out, she'll come back. I'm like, don't spank me, like, or like love, because the way we do it in love is even when we spank, like, so again, like, you just hit a little bit just to correct. After that, after she's calmed down, we come back and like give her a hug, and kiss her. So she's used to that so much that now, like, if you a little bit like spank her and she cries, after she's come down, she'll come back like, I want a hug. Yeah, she's used to that. So that's the way where she knows that we rebuked her for what she did, but she knows that there was still some love in it. It's not out of love, out of anger. So I think there's a way you can balance the two, and it depends from child to child. Like I said, the older one, we rarely never spank her. This younger one seems like she's going to need a little bit of spanking to get her in order.
I mean, yeah, I think it goes back to what you're saying. It differs from child to child, and age also is very important. There are some things you would be able to do now by spanking between, obviously, from 1 to maybe, I don't know, maybe 8, 7. But then after then, when they're teenagers, spanking wouldn't work anymore. So it depends. You have to study your child. Like for me, I mean, my son, I mean, if you know, so when he was growing up at 2, he's watched this cartoon or this, and then no is a very strong word. So when he does something and you are saying no, he feels bad. Naturally, he feels bad. And then, but the thing is that he's always coming back to you to get that approval, or maybe I believe it's his own way of saying I'm sorry. So you see what I mean? So it depends on the child to child. My daughter, no, wouldn't, like he said, wouldn't walk. So sometimes you have to spank, just show, and then she might not even feel that much bad about it. So it depends on the child and depends on the age. So that would determine what, but again, very importantly, don't do it out of anger, because you definitely do something wrong.
Yeah, and I would say, especially, just to reiterate, especially here in America, talking to them, it's an atmosphere that they're used to in school. So it has worked for our older daughter, where we explain reasons why, and that has really helped her. So I think talk to them.
Okay. Yeah. So wrapping up this video, I just want to ask two questions. Maybe single moms listening to us right now. So what kind of advice will you give those kind of people in that situation, like single mom? So what kind of advice can you give to them? Okay, because they've listened to us. Okay, I need a father in this house. So those kind of people, what kind of advice will you give to them?
Yeah, so I'll say, I'm one person who was raised mainly by my mom. I mean, my both parents are there, but I was raised probably from the age of 14, mainly just by my mom. And I mean, I could see the struggle. She had to play now both roles. My mom is a little bit on the tougher side, so she did give us, if she was very lenient, I believe that would have changed a little bit of some of the way we turned out. So she had, I mean, it was like a military camp. She had very, very strict rules. Like even like when I was dating my wife, I was the one who had a coffee, and she was the lady. She didn't have a coffee. So I was the one. It's like, all right, it's 7 p.m. Where are you? Like, get back home. So, but not every single parent would be that way. You might be on the softer side. I would say find mentors that you can attach the children to as they start getting to certain age, so that they have that, I mean, because we're talking about fatherhood, so I guess we're referring to the mothers. So they have that father figure. It doesn't have to necessarily be your own. I mean, if you don't have the man in your life. I've had several people who have brought their kids to me, especially on the teenagehood. It's like, I see this child, they have potential. I want you to mentor them. And they attach them to me, and I follow up on them. We have a young guy who I stopped seeing in church the other day, and just the other day, so I've not been seeing in church. I want you to come join this place and work with me. And I was surprised. Next week he showed up and he started coming, just because, again, I asked him to, and he's someone who looks up to me. So find depending on what age, again, I guess this is the first. If they're a little bit older, see where they have sort of a passion, and just identify somebody who could be a father figure that could help them, mentor them in that area. So that way they have at least that discipline, they have that authority figure. The authority figure is really, really important. If not, the children just grow without no order, no discipline, and no direction. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree very well what he said. But I think it has to start from the mom to admit that there's something that needs. So most times we repel the fact that this kind of conversation we're having now could be very, very controversial in some spaces. Yeah. Right. So they have to first admit that there might be a gap where the father is not there. But then you get mentors, you get people who would love you and your child genuinely, in communities like, maybe, a church community, or, any community that that you trust, them, and then you hand them over almost officially to one or two of them as the men, because when, say for example, the boy who was given to you to mentor, not only will you mentor him and say, I've not been seeing you, come around, you might from there he comes for that level of mentorship, but then there's other things you can ask him about school, life, and then you get to know other areas of his life, and that you can correct him, or with permission of his mom, of course, to talk to him about that area. So I think that's an area that's important.
Okay. And as you're talking, there were two other things that came to my mind that I probably wanted to add to that, because I did mention that I was raised up, pretty much by a single mom for the most of my life. Two things that really helped in our scenarios. One was a very strong church community. We were very embedded in the church. My mom made sure we're part of some service group, being active. So that what that did was expose us to a lot of other mentor figures that we were seeing, and we were being taught and molded into how to be as a Christian. So that really helped. I want to believe that we turned out to be okay. Yes. Myself and my brothers. I want to believe we turned out to be okay, and that was a strong factor, having that strong church community that was helping to mold us. And the second thing I wanted to add was, I think, especially for a single mom who is trying to, like, my mom was, I said, on the farmer side, so she was trying to fill that role that, the father would have potentially filled. You want to make sure you do not risk the ability of overdoing it to the point that the love aspect completely goes out. I saw that not much with me, but with my younger brothers, where it got to a point where the relationship started getting very severed, where they feel like, she doesn't really love them or care for them because, they feel like she's being too hard on them. And as they grow, this was even till like older age now, in their later age, we had a period of time where they had a very, very rough relationship going with my mom, with that. Right now, that most of that has now, been mended, and because of the huge gap I had between myself and them, I've tried to step in at some point, as that father figure to help guide them. But that is something to be very careful for. So even as you're being that farm hand, make sure you're also loving, and just explaining and ensure that the children understand why you're taking actions, that you're all on the same page. I think that's something to be very watchful for.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much. You've heard from the fathers, but I want us to think about this, that an unbeliever that is at home with their children, with their family, they are much more better than a believer who speaks in tongues, who's not around, who's not at home. So it's not just important for you to be a Christian, you must be available to your children. And we believe that you have been blessed with this video. Please do where to like, do where to subscribe to this channel, and share this video to the fathers that and also send this video to people, to single moms. So thank you so much. We'll see you in the next episode. God bless you. Bye-bye.
Bye.